Pat, here at home, both parties are working in an all-out campaign blitz for control of the Senate in next month's midterm elections. But one major problem for Democrats could be low turnout. The Hill reports that polling suggests turnout could be very low this year. That's likely bad news for Democrats because more liberal voters may stay home than Republican voters. And that could mean another terrible election for Democrats, similar to 2010 when Republicans took over the House of Representatives. This year, control of the Senate is the key battleground. And for more on that, let's go back over to Pat.
Well, I have with me John Waggy, who correctly called the tune. When was it, John?
1994, the Republican wave election.
And you were one of the only people, when you told me that over 50 seats were going to change hands, I thought you had been smoking some kind of funny cigarette. But you were right on.
Well, that year I was. I've had some ups and downs over the years.
Well,
Pat, you know we've been doing this for 32 years.
Good grief.
The first time I came on was the Reagan first midterm, 1982. So
just a boy.
It's been great.
In those days. All right. What is happening? They're talking about turnout. Is that going to be the key to it?
I think that's a big key to it, Pat. I think that, the Republican base or conservatives seem to be energized, and the poll numbers for President Obama are, according to Gallup's tracking poll Saturday, the lowest they've been so far. So that should be a motivation for Republicans and conservatives to register their disapproval one more time, but we'll see.
There's a visceral dislike of Obama among conservatives. I mean, visceral. Sometimes you got a guy, you don't agree with his policy, but this fella has touched every chord that gets Republicans upset. So you think they will show up to send him a message?
The polls show that, but there also is some dissatisfaction within the party on the whole idea of conservatives versus moderates in the party, and that could hurt at the margins. So we'll see.
Well, let's look at the Senate, which of course is the one that Harry Reid has been blocking legislation. Anything, he will not allow a vote to anything that might embarrass his members. It's unbelievable how much stuff he's bottled up. He's like a mafia don.
I'm not sure voters are that aware of it, but that's the question, Pat, is which voters will turn out. And the Senate races this year, the math really favors the Republicans because there are 53 Democrats in the Senate, 45 Republicans, and 2 independents vote with the Democrats. Now, the Republicans need a net gain of 6 seats to win back the Senate. And so this is the question, and it looks like there are about 12 states at this point where Republicans could win states.
Let's call them, but which are they?
Okay, well, I think we have a map for that where we can show the vulnerable states, both in red and blue. And but anyway, the Republicans have the biggest chance in several states scattered throughout the country. You can see there the vulnerable Democratic states, blue states. Let's start with Montana because that's a state that looks quite likely to be a GOP pickup.
Well, the Democrats been cheating on his...
well, he dropped out of the race and was replaced by a 34-year-old newcomer, Amanda Curtis. Steve Daines looks set to take that race in Montana, so that'd be a net gain of 1 for the Republicans. West Virginia's the second one. Coal country, very upset at Obama for the energy policies that he's pursued.
He has like a 20% approval rating on lower over there.
And Shelley Moore Capito, the Republican candidate, is the daughter of a popular governor, former governor, Arch Moore, and she seems poised to make it number 2. So that's 2 seats out of 6 that the Republicans are.
Keep going.
Okay, now we go to South Dakota, which is kind of interesting because that looked like a dead ringer in the last 2 weeks. And Mike Rounds, the governor, was poised to win. And then the Democrats pumped $1 million into Larry Pressler's independent campaign.
Larry used to be a Republican.
He did, but he's voted for Obama twice, and he seems to think he can pull that off. We'll see, but that could be the 3rd seat the Republicans need.
Okay.
Then you go to Alaska, where Mark Begich is a Democrat in heavily red Alaska, and he's running into trouble against Dan Sullivan, who's a fairly moderate Republican. So that could be number 4.
Have the polls showed Begich
Polls shows Sullivan with the slight lead, but bad numbers for the incumbent anyway.
Okay.
Arkansas. This is a state where Mark Pryor cast the deciding vote for Obamacare, and Arkansas is just going more and more red. Tom Cotton's an Iraq war veteran and is showing a slight lead in the polls, so that's 5. So You know, they're within the margin, and then if you look at all those blue Democratic states, they would just need one more from the whole list.
Which one do you look at?
I'm going to go with Louisiana, Mary Landrieu. You know, that she's up against two Republicans now. They have what's called the jungle primary there, where if nobody gets more than 50%, the top two run off in December. So we might not know until December who controls the U.S. Senate.
Well, she's, what is she, the sister of Mona Landrieu, who was the popular governor of New Orleans? I mean,
Mayor of New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it's a famous name, and she could still pull it off in the state, but the anti-Obama sentiment in Louisiana is pretty strong.
The map showed Virginia. I can't see that.
I put Virginia on the map, Pat, and I put Michigan on the map in case there is a Republican wave. Those two states could come into play. I don't expect them to. The Democrats are in high single-digit leads in both states. I've read that the Republicans have pulled out some money in Michigan, pulled out ad buys to put them somewhere else. So it doesn't look likely.
North Carolina's this Speaker of the House he's behind though.
He is slightly behind Kay Hagan. The incumbent Kay Hagan is ahead, and in their debates, she calls him Speaker Tillis every time because she wants to tie him to the Republican legislature, which isn't that popular in North Carolina right now. But he's still within striking distance. Again, it comes back to turnout. And one thing I wanted to mention, Pat, is the Democrats have a computer system called Catalyst, and it's a very comprehensive data collecting thing that is shared among leftist groups, environmentalists, among unions, and they pool their resources, and they can go after individual hardcore voters in their base and not worry as much about spending money to woo the independent voters. So that's the secret weapon that makes us kind of a little bit uncertain going into the last few weeks.
Well, let's talk about the House. You were right on with a huge shift in the House. The House is strongly Republican now, and there's no chance that Republicans will lose. But how many seats will they pick up, you think?
Well, you know, they would like to get the most seats ever or in modern history for Republicans, and I think they'd need somewhere between 12 and 20 for that. I don't think they're going to pick up that many. You know, they picked up the bulk of it in the 2010 election for the House, and I don't see them winning more than a handful of seats. There's some Republican-held seats that the House members are kind of in jeopardy, so it could be somewhat of a wash. But we'll see. In a wave, it could change.
It really won't matter. I mean, in the long scheme of things, what they need to do is get the Senate. Of course, they need to get the White House, but if they get the Senate, essentially it'll be a blocking move, and from then on out.
Exactly, and the president will still have the veto power, but the Republicans will be able to control key areas of legislation. They might be able to block some judge and Supreme Court appointments by the president.
That's the key. That's the key.
And you've said that for many years, Pat. That really is the key.
But if all he can do is veto, then suddenly he becomes President No, and then the Democrats are the party of no.
That's true. And Democrats on this election are not coming anywhere near him. In any of those states that we saw earlier, those blue states, they don't want him coming.
Well, anyhow, we'll watch, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming up, and so John's here, and he'll be back to give us an update when the time comes. And if anything happens in the election, we'll be watching it and let you know about it.